Perth MetroNet was supposed to change everything. A seamless public transport system for Western Australia that would make travel faster, easier, and better for everyone. But instead, it's turning into a massive money pit. So, what's really going on? Why are the costs spiraling out of control? This project promised to fix congestion and boost connectivity across the region. It sounded like a game changer, right? But now, with skyrocketing budgets and endless delays, people are frustrated. What was once a symbol of progress is quickly becoming a financial headache. And this isn't just about delays, it's about your money. Rising costs mean higher taxes, possible cuts to other important services, and growing doubts about whether massive projects like this are even worth it. In today's video, we're diving into the hidden reasons behind these cost blowouts. We'll reveal the unexpected challenges, labor market struggles, and other factors that are quietly driving up the bill. Trust me, the truth might surprise you, so stick around. Perth MetroNet was envisioned as a revolutionary public transport system that would radically transform the way people travel across Western Australia. The goal? To provide a more efficient, accessible, and sustainable alternative to driving. It promised reduced congestion, better public transport, and the development of new suburban communities. The idea was simple yet ambitious. Connect Perth's outer suburbs to the city with modern train lines and improve the overall public transport network. When the project was first announced, the budget was set at $3 billion, a significant but manageable investment for the state. However, in recent years, those estimates have ballooned. Today, the cost projections are hovering around $9 billion. That's a 300% increase from the initial estimate, raising eyebrows and questions about the feasibility of the project. With costs spiraling, it's clear that MetroNet is facing financial hurdles that no one expected. MetroNet isn't just a single rail line, it's an extensive plan. The project includes major components like the Morley-Ellenbrook line, which aims to link the suburbs to the city, and the Forestfield Airport link, providing direct access to Perth's airport. These major infrastructure projects are all part of the MetroNet vision to reshape Perth's public transport landscape. But as we'll discuss, the complexity of these projects has led to significant delays and cost overruns. Perth's population has grown at a much faster pace than anticipated, and this is one of the main factors behind the escalating costs of the MetroNet project. The rapid population boom has increased demand for larger stations, longer train routes, and more trains to accommodate a growing number of passengers. These new demands weren't initially factored into the project's early estimates. Originally, MetroNet was designed to cater to a certain population size, but the growth in Perth's outer suburbs, particularly along the proposed rail lines, has significantly changed the landscape. The growth isn't just about numbers, it's also about changing transportation needs. People want faster services, more frequent trains, and stations that are larger and more accessible. To meet these needs, MetroNet has had to make unplanned infrastructure upgrades, such as expanding station designs and adding additional tracks. These changes were necessary to avoid overcrowding and to ensure the system would meet future demand. But they've added significant costs to the project. Many subcontractors and contractors involved in MetroNet have had to raise their prices to secure skilled workers, further adding to the costs. The labor shortages have also led to delays, as projects take longer to complete with fewer hands on deck, leading to longer timelines and inevitably higher prices. Global supply chain disruptions have wreaked havoc on the cost of materials needed for MetroNet. The project relies heavily on materials like steel, concrete, and electrical components, all of which have become significantly more expensive due to supply chain bottlenecks. These materials are essential for building rail tracks, stations, and the infrastructure that powers the system. The shortage of materials and the rising prices of these goods have pushed the budget further out of reach. This is not just a local issue, it's a global one. The pandemic disrupted manufacturing and shipping worldwide, and the ripple effects are still being felt today. On top of that, rising inflation is compounding the problem, increasing the overall cost of almost every component of the project. It's not just the materials themselves that are more expensive, it's the transportation costs associated with getting them to Perth and the labor costs to install them. The combination of supply chain disruptions and inflation has made a once affordable project become much more expensive than anyone expected. One of the hidden reasons behind the rising costs is the overambitious planning that went into the original designs. While the vision for MetroNet was bold and inspiring, some of the initial ideas were just too optimistic and unrealistic, considering the scale of the project. The planners were aiming for cutting-edge technology and futuristic designs that would make Perth's transport system the best in Australia. However, once construction started, it became clear that some of these ideas were too complex and required expensive revisions. For example, integrating MetroNet with the existing public transport system turned out to be more challenging than anticipated. It wasn't just about adding new tracks and stations. It was about making sure the new lines worked seamlessly with the older infrastructure. This required redesigns, technical changes, and costly adjustments that weren't part of the original plan. The complexity of the integration meant that time and money had to be spent on solutions that weren't initially foreseen. Another factor driving up the cost of MetroNet is the challenge of meeting environmental regulations and preserving Perth's heritage sites. With any large-scale infrastructure project, there are strict laws that govern the impact on the environment and historical landmarks. In some cases, MetroNet has had to make costly adjustments, including rerouting the tracks or redesigning stations to avoid protected lands, ecosystems, or heritage sites. For example, certain areas of the rail network had to be redesigned to avoid sensitive ecological zones or heritage-listed buildings, all of which adds both time and money to the project. While these regulations are crucial for protecting Perth's environment and history, they weren't fully anticipated in the early planning stages. These last-minute changes add layers of complexity to the project, causing both delays and cost increases. Finally, technical challenges that were not foreseen at the start of the project have contributed heavily to the rising costs. One example is the issue with unstable soils in certain parts of the city, which required expensive foundational work to stabilize the ground before construction could proceed. This issue wasn't identified early on, and it led to delays as engineers worked to find solutions. In addition, tunnel construction has proven more difficult than expected. The ground beneath Perth isn't always easy to work with, and some of the areas slated for tunneling have required specialized equipment and techniques, all of which come with a high price tag. Tunnel boring machines, TBMs, are expensive to operate, and their use has added significant costs to the project, especially as they faced setbacks due to technical issues along the way. These unforeseen technical challenges are another reason the project is costing so much more than anticipated. When a large-scale infrastructure project faces these kinds of technical hurdles, the costs quickly escalate, and delays become inevitable. Brisbane's Cross River Rail project has faced similar cost blowouts, making it an interesting comparison for Perth MetroNet. Originally budgeted at $5.4 billion, the costs have risen by millions, with estimates now exceeding $8 billion. Like MetroNet, Brisbane's project has encountered unexpected challenges, such as land acquisition delays, technical issues, and labor shortages, all of which have driven up the cost. One lesson MetroNet can learn from Cross River Rail is the importance of factoring in contingency budgeting. In Brisbane, the failure to adequately plan for potential complications led to more significant cost escalations. MetroNet could avoid a similar fate by building more flexibility into its budget, anticipating possible setbacks from the outset. Sydney Metro, another major infrastructure project, faced its own set of cost challenges, with the initial budget of $8.3 billion ballooning to over $11 billion. The complexity of integrating new metro lines with the existing Sydney rail network caused delays and additional costs. Unlike MetroNet, Sydney Metro had more comprehensive initial planning and more robust contingency funds, which helped manage the financial strain. However, similar to Perth's situation, supply chain issues and labor market struggles affected the timeline and budget. MetroNet should learn from Sydney's approach by investing in better upfront planning, especially when integrating the new system with existing infrastructure. Sydney's success, despite cost issues, highlights that strong long-term planning can mitigate cost escalations. Despite the rising costs, there are still potential long-term benefits to MetroNet that could make the project worth it. Once completed, MetroNet has the ability to reduce congestion across Perth's road network, giving commuters a faster and more efficient way to travel. With better connectivity between the suburbs and the city center, people will have easier access to work, education, and leisure. The project also promises to encourage suburban development, improving housing options, and creating more livable spaces in Perth's outer areas. Moreover, the economic impact of MetroNet could be significant. By improving transportation infrastructure, Perth could see higher business activity and more job opportunities. As the city grows, the network will become a vital component in sustaining Perth's economy. The enhanced public transport system could boost property values in areas near stations and generate long-term growth for the region.